After my arranged marriage to my childhood friend's older brother, I couldn't stand our weekly, robotic sessions anymore. Just as I was about to ask for a divorce, a few lines of text suddenly floated in front of my eyes, like comments in a live stream. "Girl, don't be impulsive. It's not that he doesn't want to get it on, he's actually a sex addict. He's holding back like crazy because he's terrified of scaring her off. She has no idea, but he's about to explode every single time. Her childhood crush, Sean, just got back, and now she's asking for a divorce. He's totally going to get the wrong idea. OMG, don't provoke him. It's too late, he's going full dark side. She's probably going to get pinned down until she can't see straight tonight." Can't see straight? I glanced over at my husband. The usually calm and reserved man was staring at me with dark, intense eyes, a pair of handcuffs in his hand. Late at night. The sound of the shower echoed from the bathroom. I lay on the bed in a slinky nightgown. The last 2 years with Jay flashed through my mind. A marriage that felt more like a polite arrangement between strangers. The weekly, obligatory sex. The same old vanilla position, every single time. I was sick of this life. Tonight was my last-ditch effort to save this marriage with Jay. With a soft click, the bathroom door opened. I pretended to be fast asleep. A moment later, the mattress dipped beside me. That familiar, cool scent enveloped me. Taking a deep breath, I swung myself onto his lap and let my hands wander over his abs. Jay went completely still, grabbing my hands to stop me. "Ella, what are you doing?" I bit my lip, feeling a blush creep up my face. "Jay," I said, my voice shy. "I want you." Jay's expression froze for a second. His hand tightened around my wrist. He stared at me, his gaze unreadable, his Adam's apple bobbing slowly. "Ella, once a week is enough for us." Rejected on my first ever move. My face burned with humiliation, and all my confidence evaporated. I lowered my eyes to hide my disappointment and slid off him. "Jay, I need to talk to you about something." With that, I pulled open the nightstand drawer. I was about to hand him the divorce papers I'd already prepared. Suddenly, more text floated in front of my eyes. "Girl, don't do it. He's not rejecting you on purpose. He has an addiction, and doing it more than once a week will trigger it. He's terrified of scaring you, so he's always holding back. You have no idea how close he comes to losing it every time. The moment your childhood crush, Sean, gets back, you ask for a divorce. He's definitely going to misunderstand. OMG, don't push him. He's already on the edge. You're going to get railed until you can't see straight tonight." Can't see straight? I tilted my head and looked beside me. The man who was as calm as a still lake a moment ago now had a storm brewing in his dark eyes. And in his hand was a pair of handcuffs. Jay hadn't expected me to look over so suddenly. His expression stiffened. As our eyes met, my heart gave a strange little flutter. My fingers tightened around the divorce papers. I had never seen this side of Jay before. I was a little excited, but also a little scared. I mean, I like a guy who's a little bad in bed. But if he was too intense, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I casually put the divorce papers back in the drawer and lay back down. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jay staring at the handcuffs for a long moment. Finally, he put them back in the drawer. Oh my God. I've shared a bed with Jay for 2 years and had no idea he'd bought handcuffs. I instinctively scooted toward the edge of the bed. The man silently closed the distance. He placed a hand on the small of my back, his voice low and husky. "Ella, if you want, I can help you." My voice trembled. "And no, that's okay. I'm going to sleep." The comments started flooding the screen. LMAO, she was totally freaked out by what he just did. But don't worry, Ella. He's normal most of the time. Just don't bring up the divorce. She doesn't know this, but when he found out Sean was coming back, he was so worried he couldn't sleep all night. He's a ticking time bomb right now. Girl, do not provoke this desperate husband. I started to piece together what the comments were saying. Apparently, I was living inside some kind of spicy romance novel. In the original story, after marrying Jay, who had been secretly in love with me for years, I couldn't get over my childhood sweetheart, Sean, who was abroad. The moment Sean returned, I eagerly asked Jay for a divorce. This caused Jay to completely snap. That night, he chained me to the headboard and took out all his frustration on me until morning. After that, I tried to sneak out to see Sean several times. But each time, Jay would catch me, drag me back, and punish me harshly. The entire novel was either sex, or on the way to having sex. In the end, he successfully tamed me with his body. Help me. What kind of twisted author came up with this story? While I couldn't trust the comments completely, I couldn't ignore them either. You never know. And Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong, will go wrong. Right on cue, my best friend, Mia, called. Remembering she just went through a breakup, I answered almost instantly, habitually putting it on speakerphone. Ella, Sean's back. When are you going to ask Jay for a divorce? You said you thought Jay was dull, straight-laced, and boring, and that living with him was no fun. Besides, you two only got together because. I hung up before she could finish. Mia, oh Mia. You're a real pal, you know that? I wanted to cry but had no tears. I grabbed Jay's shirt and tried to explain. Jay, it's not what you think. I don't want to divorce you. Dull, straight-laced, and boring? Jay let out a small laugh, his voice betraying no emotion. But his cool fingers were already lifting the hem of my shirt, his touch sending shivers up my spine. Then what kind of man do you like, Ella? My face flushed, and a soft moan escaped my lips. Don't listen to her, she's talking nonsense. I like you just the way you are. LMAO, the survival instinct is strong with this one. She's terrified he's going to snap. Don't worry, he's easy to please. Just give him a kiss and he'll be fine. Really? I like you just like this. After saying that, I wrapped my arms around Jay's neck and kissed him. Jay's breath hitched, and he pulled his hand away from my shirt. He pulled me into his arms and kissed my forehead. Okay, he murmured. Go to sleep. I slipped out of his embrace, saying softly, you go ahead, Jay. I'm just going to chat with Mia for a bit. I found Mia's contact and sent her a text. I'm not divorcing Jay. She replied instantly with 3 question marks. If you're not getting a divorce, what about Sean? None of us told him you got married. It's been over between us for a long time. After replying, I turned off the screen. To be fair, I couldn't blame Mia for asking. Sean and I had a childhood engagement and grew up together. Everyone in our social circle assumed I'd marry Sean one day. No one expected me to end up marrying his older brother, Jay. Our friends all thought I was forced into it by the circumstances. It all started when Jay and I drank some spiked wine at a party and accidentally spent the night together. And got caught by our parents. But honestly, that wasn't it. I was just tired of waiting for someone who was never there. Until I was 21, I followed Sean around like a puppy. But his eyes were always on his race cars. Every time I said I needed him, he treated it like I was being irrational. The day Sean left for his race training abroad, I made it very clear to him. The engagement was off. As usual, Sean didn't take me seriously. Ella, racing is my passion. Can you please not be so childish? I already told you, when I get back, we'll get married. He was gone for 3 years. Truthfully, I always had a feeling Sean was trying to get out of our engagement. Around the time Jay and I got married, Sean was preparing for a major race. Our parents, not wanting to distract him, decided not to tell him about the wedding. Later, they felt it was something Jay and I should tell him ourselves. Over the past 3 years, Sean and I had been in touch, but not much. Our conversations were always cut short by him saying he had to go do something else. I never got the chance to tell him that I had married Jay. What's she thinking about? Hasn't she noticed he's been gone for a while? Jay's been turned on twice tonight. His addiction is kicking in, and right now he's in the study using her lingerie to relieve himself. Ella, go help this poor, desperate husband. If he holds it in too long, something's gonna break. The comments snapped me back to reality. I glanced to my side and realized Jay had left the room at some point. I searched the house for him. Finally, I ended up at the door to his study. From inside, I could hear the faint, strained sounds of a man trying desperately to hold back. Ella, Ella. Oh my God. Jay is. At that thought, my face burned. My mind was a complete mess. I hesitated for a few seconds before mustering the courage to knock. Jay, do you need some help? The sounds from inside stopped abruptly. The man's voice was incredibly hoarse. No, you go to bed. I have some work to finish up. LMAO, they're on completely different wavelengths. Her idea of help is not what he's thinking. If he knew she'd found out his secret, he'd probably throw caution to the wind and drag her in there for a marathon session. She doesn't know that after she falls asleep, he often sneaks her underwear into the study to get relief. So, all my missing underwear was taken by J4. I touched my hot cheeks, trying to stop my mind from going there. I was almost asleep when Jay finally came back to bed. In a daze, I felt him pull me into his arms and gently peck my forehead twice. His possessive voice whispered in my ear. The moment Sean comes back, you plan to divorce me. You still have feelings for him, don't you? Ella, tell me what you don't like about me and I'll change. We're not getting a divorce. The only way we're divorcing is if I'm dead. His words sent a shiver through me. I wanted to open my mouth to explain, but my eyelids were too heavy. I didn't hear whatever else Jay said after that. When I woke up the next morning, Jay was already gone. I saw the breakfast and the note he'd left on the dining table, and a warm feeling spread through my chest. Jay was actually the perfect husband. He made me breakfast every single day without fail. He remembered all my favorites and even my period. When my parents pressured me to get a job, he stood up for me, unconditionally supporting my choices and decisions. Living with him for 2 years, I had already drowned in his meticulous, all-encompassing gentleness. It was only because I thought he had issues in bed that I'd wanted a divorce. Now, that thought was completely gone. I wanted to know just how strong this addiction of his really was. Sean's return meant he'd be getting together with old friends. I got the invite early on. Before heading to the party, I made sure to text Jay and let him know. When I arrived, the private room was already full. Sean was leaning back, chatting with the person next to him. Our eyes met. Sean paused for a few seconds before quickly looking away. You haven't seen each other in 3 years. Aren't you going to go give our little Ella a hug? The speaker was Sean's best friend, Kyle. When he found out I was marrying Jay, he'd confronted me, saying I was doing Sean wrong. But he knew full well how Sean treated me. He and Sean's other friends had even publicly made bets on me multiple times. A barely perceptible smile touched Sean's lips. No rush. There'll be plenty of time for that later. Throughout the entire night, Sean was completely engrossed in conversation with his friends, barely saying a word to me. When the party ended, Sean was planning to go somewhere else with his friends. I had to pull him aside. I needed to tell him I was married to Jay. In the hallway, Sean leaned against the wall and spoke nonchalantly, "You're a lot quieter these days." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My mind flashed back to the past. For as long as I could remember, the girl was always chattering away behind the boy. The boy would look at her, his face full of annoyance. "Ella, you're so loud. Can you just shut up?" The girl's eyes would immediately fill with tears. I looked up at him, my voice calm. "Sean, I'm married." Sean didn't even lift an eyelid, his tone indifferent. Okay, Ella, I know you're mad that I was gone for so long. Don't worry. I came back this time to marry you. As he spoke, Sean suddenly leaned in and wrapped his arms around me. I tried to struggle, but couldn't break free. Bro, you're just in time. Can you do me a favor and take Ella home? Hearing Sean's voice, I froze. I whipped my head around to look behind me. There stood Jay, his expression dark, his cold gaze fixed on me and Sean. Ella Mayo, what a showdown. Too bad this idiot Sean still doesn't know Ella is his sister-in-law. Sean's brain, perfect timing, bro. Now I can ditch this pain in the ass. Jay's brain, I came to pick up my fucking wife and I find her hugging my little brother, her ex. Why are they still hugging? His face could freeze hell over. Is she really going to get back with Sean? Realizing what was happening, I was about to push Sean away. But he let go first. Bro, I'll leave Ella with you. Sean dropped that line and walked away, leaving me and Jay staring at each other. The man walked over to me in a few steps and naturally took my hand. Let's go home. On the way home, Jay was unusually silent. I tried to explain several times, but seeing his cold, stony face, I chickened out. When we got home, Jay grabbed his pajamas and went straight into the bathroom. I sat on the sofa, my mind in a tangle. The comments were full of exasperation. This girl is unbelievably dense. He's obviously upset, but she won't explain unless he asks. With how dense she is, she'll probably never figure out he's been secretly in love with her for 9 years. He's been a nervous wreck ever since Sean came back. I swear, if these two don't learn to communicate. Just open your damn mouth and talk. I latched onto a key phrase, secretly in love. I suddenly remembered a detail from the original story that I had ignored. According to the plot, Jay had been in love with me long before we got married. For 9 years. But in my memory, Jay and I had barely interacted. My impression of him was mostly that he was calm, reserved, and serious. We were on a hello and goodbye basis. Just as I was lost in thought, Jay came out of the bathroom. His eyes met mine, and his expression instantly softened. Looks like he managed to calm himself down. Ugh, my heart breaks a little for him. He finally marries the woman he loves, but because of his addiction, he has to constantly hold back his desire for her. They've been married for 2 years, but he thinks she's still in love with Sean, so he's afraid to get too close. Then he sees her hugging Sean, and even though he's dying inside, he doesn't dare ask about it. I thought he was going to snap tonight, but he talked himself off the ledge. Ella, please, just look at him. I stared at Jay, a strange pulling sensation in my chest. It was a mix of sourness and pain. Jay walked over and took my wrist, his voice tinged with resignation. How could you be so careless? Only then did I notice the small cut on my finger from peeling an apple earlier. Jay had always been this gentle with me. I grabbed his shirt, bit my lip, and said, Jay, there was nothing going on with me and Sean tonight. I told him we were married, he didn't believe me, and then he just hugged me. Really? Don't get the wrong idea. Sean and I are in the past. I just want to build a good life with you now. Jay was clearly taken aback by my words. It was as if he never expected me to explain on my own. He stared at me, his voice a little hoarse. Okay. A moment of silence hung in the air. My eyes were inexplicably drawn to Jay's thin lips. Jay, I want to kiss you. Before Jay could react, I leaned in and kissed him. The man froze for a second, a faint blush creeping up his ears. After a few moments, Jay took the lead. He pulled me onto his lap, his kiss turning hot and urgent as he parted my lips and explored my mouth with a wild passion. The wet, intimate sounds of our kissing filled the air. The temperature in the room began to rise. My hands instinctively found their way to his abs. Suddenly, the sharp ring of a phone shattered the intimate atmosphere. I leaned against Jay's chest, my breathing unsteady. Jay glanced at the caller ID, his expression turning serious. He looked down at me and said softly, "Ella, I have to take this call." I lowered my head. "Okay." While he was gone, I changed into the black slip dress I had set aside earlier. I was planning to finally confront Jay about his addiction tonight. But somehow, while waiting, I fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was already noon the next day. I quickly got ready. I planned to go to Jay's office to see him. In the past, our relationship had been too polite and formal, not like a real married couple. Now, I wanted to break that pattern and be closer to him. Just as I got to the front of his office building, I ran straight into Sean. He stormed over to me, his face dark with anger, and grabbed my wrist. "You're really married?" he demanded. "To my brother?" "Yes," I answered honestly. "But I'm the one you were engaged to." His voice rose, his emotions suddenly flaring. His eyes were bloodshot, his expression twisted. "Did they force you into this?" I frowned slightly. "No one forced me. It was my choice. The day you left, I told you very clearly that the engagement was off. You just didn't take it seriously." "I didn't say I wasn't taking it seriously. I just needed time. I thought you would wait for me." Sean looked at me, a ridiculously absurd expression on his face. "I go abroad for a few years, and you fucking become my sister-in-law. You all kept me in the dark. Do you have any idea how I felt when I found out you married my brother? I almost lost my fucking mind. I never thought Sean would have such a strong reaction to my marriage with Jay. I'd assumed he'd be happy when he found out. After all, he used to find me so annoying." I was silent for a few seconds before speaking. "Sean, don't be like this. We both need to move on." "How can I move on?" Sean's breathing steadied, his eyes locked on mine, his voice tight. "I came back to marry you, and I find out you married my brother. I know you two were forced into it. There are no feelings between you. Just divorce him now, and we can go get married right away." "That's impossible. I'm in love with your brother now." I didn't want to get dragged into this with Sean. After saying my piece, I turned and walked away without hesitation. I flagged down a taxi, and the comments appeared again. "Where's she going? Is she going to find Jay? But he's right here." Sean found out about the marriage from their mom. She was worried Sean would do something crazy, so she called Jay. Jay rushed over as soon as he got the call. He's been watching them from his car this whole time. He didn't dare show himself, he was giving her a chance to choose. But he's too far away to hear what they're saying. This poor, desperate husband is probably torturing himself with his thoughts again. What? Jay was nearby? Why didn't he show himself? I scanned the area, but I couldn't see any sign of him. Panicked, I pulled out my phone and dialed his familiar number. He answered almost immediately, his voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. "Ella. Jay, can you come find me right now? There's something I want to tell you in person." Jay was faster than I expected. He was standing in front of me in less than 2 minutes. His eyes flickered, a subtle sadness clinging to him. Without a second thought, I walked over and threw my arms around him. Jay was stunned for a moment. I spoke slowly and clearly. "Sean came to see me. He found out we're married and he was a little upset. We talked for a bit. You were here the whole time, why didn't you come out?" The hand hanging at Jay's side clenched into a fist. His lips moved, a storm of complex emotions swirling in his eyes. I cut him off. "You were going to say that our marriage started by accident, that you thought I still had feelings for Sean, and you wanted to give me a chance to choose again. But..." I looked up at Jay and said with all the seriousness I could muster, "I'm not in love with Sean anymore. The person I love now is you. Yes. I freaking love a main couple that actually communicates." After that day, my relationship with Jay took another step forward. It was no longer polite, reserved, or distant. But every time things started to get heated, Jay would stop. I decided to wait for the right moment to bring up his secret love for me and his addiction. That afternoon, Jay and I went to his parents' house. Sean was there. At the dinner table, every word out of Sean's mouth was dripping with sarcasm. I can't believe it. The girl I was engaged to my whole life ended up as my sister-in-law. Older brother steals his younger brother's fiancée. That'd make for some explosive headlines, wouldn't it? Bro, you must feel pretty proud of yourself right now, playing all of us like that. As he finished, the air turned ice cold. Our father slammed his hand on the table in anger. Sean, if you're not going to eat, then go to your room. Once Sean was gone, the atmosphere at the table eased up. Jay gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. I smiled back at him. After dinner, Jay had things to discuss with his father. I went upstairs to rest. Just as I reached the door to Jay's old room, Sean suddenly appeared behind me. He pushed me into the room and shut the door behind him. Sean, what are you doing? I frowned, uncomfortable with his touch. Sean stood in front of me and smirked. Aren't you curious why you and my brother were both drugged at that party? His question seemed to come out of nowhere. Jay and I had already investigated that. It was the CEO of some company on the verge of bankruptcy, trying to save his business. Jay and I had just accidentally drunk the wrong wine. What if I told you my brother was the one who drugged you? I retorted almost instinctively, impossible. Your brother isn't that kind of person. And how would you know he isn't? Sean's voice suddenly shot up, his face a mask of fury. He grabbed my wrist, dragged me over to Jay's bookshelf, pulled out a stack of photos, and threw them on the bed. Every single photo was of me. Countless candid shots from every conceivable angle. As I stared at the photos, an indescribable emotion washed over me. Jay had really been silently in love with me for 9 years. From a perspective I never knew, he had been quietly and gently watching over my entire life. Jay knew you were my fiancé, and he was still secretly coveting you. He waited until I was out of the country, then he drugged you so he could sleep with you and seize the opportunity to take you from me. If it wasn't for him, I should have been the one marrying you. The comments flew across my vision, frantic as ants on a hot pan. Ella, don't believe him. Jay didn't do it, he's not that kind of person. After they were drugged, Jay was trying desperately not to touch her. It was Ella who couldn't take it and started kissing and touching him. He asked her if she was sure 3 times before he finally gave in. Ugh, Sean is the worst. Jay's secret love has been exposed just like that. I feel like he's about to shatter into a million pieces. I froze and looked toward the doorway. Jay was standing there, his face completely pale. He stared at me, his voice heavy and choked. Ella, if you think I'm disgusting, we can get a divorce anytime. I'll respect your choice. With that, Jay turned and walked away. I was about to chase after him, but I saw the instigator was still standing there. I raised my hand and slapped Sean hard across the face. Sean, I know exactly what kind of person Jay is. I don't need you to slander him like this. If he really had those intentions, he wouldn't have just stood by and watched me chase after you for all those years. He should have been more selfish and stepped in one of the countless times you pushed me away. I looked at him, my voice cold. You're doing this because you want me to divorce Jay so you can get me back. But have you ever realized that the problems between us never had anything to do with anyone else? It was your avoidance and your coldness that pushed me away, time and time again. Have you forgotten what you told Kyle and the guys right before you left the country? During my senior year of college, I was the last to find out that Sean was going abroad. After Mia accidentally told me, I rushed to the club Sean always frequented to find him. But I happened to overhear Kyle and the others laughing and asking Sean, "What about Ella when you're gone?" Sean's face was etched with annoyance. "She follows me around every day, it's so damn annoying. And the old man won't let me call off the engagement. He even wants us to get married right after graduation." I chose to go abroad because I don't want my marriage to be arranged like this. The best thing would be if Ella gets the hint after I leave and calls off the engagement herself. I stood outside the private room, my heart sinking. Before that moment, I had never imagined how much Sean resented our engagement. And in that instant, my obsession with Sean just vanished. So, on the day he left, I was the one who initiated breaking the engagement. I chose to set him free. Pulling myself out of the memory, I looked at Sean and let out a mocking laugh. You chose to go abroad because you didn't want to marry me, and in the end, I gave you what you wanted and our engagement was voided. Playing the victim now is just pathetic. Sean froze, a flicker of panic in his eyes. He seemed to realize something and desperately grabbed my wrist, his voice trembling violently. Ella, I admit I used to avoid our engagement, that I deliberately ignored you. But after I went abroad, I got the freedom I wanted, but I wasn't as happy as I thought I'd be. My heart always felt like something was missing, like it was empty. Until one day I dreamed of you, and that empty space in my heart was suddenly filled. It was in that moment I realized I'd been running away from my feelings for you all along. I was wrong before. I didn't realize what I had. Divorce my brother. We can start over. I promise I'll treat you right. Hearing Sean say all this after so many years, I felt a strange urge to laugh. So he knew how much he'd ignored me all those years. And now that he says he regrets it, I'm just supposed to come running back. Sean, don't you get it? Even without your brother, there's no going back for us. Every time you silently allowed Kyle and your friends to make bets on me, every time you coldly pushed me away, you were chipping away at my feelings for you. I was once passionately in love with you, I truly was. But that was in the past. Now, I'm truly, completely over you. Exactly. The moment he stood by and watched others use her for a bet, he lost any right to be with her. By the time I chased after him, Jay was long gone. Seriously? I had no idea what to do with this man. I ended up calling Mia and asking for advice. Mia gave a knowing smile. It's simple. Give me your phone. 15 minutes later, Jay rushed into the bar. He found me with a male model on each arm, sipping a drink. One was feeding me while watching another one dance for me. The man's face instantly darkened several shades. Mia fanned the flames from the side. Oh, sorry. When I called you, I didn't realize you two were getting a divorce. Anyway, since you're splitting up, Ella can do whatever she wants. I was just about to book a king-sized room for Ella and her new friends so she can have some real fun. Jay's lips were pressed into a thin line as he walked over without a word. The male models, intimidated by his aura, immediately scattered. The man knelt in front of me, his voice gentle. Ella, let's go home. I looked at him with drunken, blurry eyes, my voice full of hurt. What home? Aren't you divorcing me? Jay stared at me, his jawline tight. A fierce emotion churned in his dark eyes. He scooped me up into his arms, his voice unbelievably gentle. No divorce. We're going home. Back at our place, Jay set me down on the sofa. He was about to go make me some honey water when I wrapped my arms around him, my voice muffled against his chest. Jay, you're not disgusting. Not at all. I didn't believe a word Sean said. How could your love ever be disgusting to me? All those years I didn't know, you were watching over me all by yourself. It must have been so tiring. I wish you were the one I was engaged to from the start. We wouldn't have wasted so many years. After we got married, you were so good to me, but I was too blind to see how you really felt. From now on, you're not allowed to mention divorce. You're not allowed to jump to conclusions without asking me anything. We have to talk everything out. Jay's voice had a hint of a laugh in it, but his eyes were red. Okay. Driven by the alcohol, I wrapped my arms around Jay's neck and kissed him. For once, Jay wasn't passive. He cradled the back of my head, and a hot, passionate kiss crashed over me. I felt like I was drowning in his wild, intoxicating kiss. In the heat of the moment, I felt something hot and hard press against my leg. Jay noticed it too and instantly stopped. Seeing him like this, I knew he was probably planning to go take care of it somewhere else like he always did. I yanked his collar open and bit his Adam's apple. Jay, you don't have to hold back anymore. I've known about your addiction for a while now. I also know you're the one who's been taking my underwear. And I forgot to tell you, I like a man who's a little bad in bed. And I don't like doing it only once a week. You used to finish before I even felt anything. From now on, can you just be your real self? LMAO, that comment was a critical hit to his pride. He's definitely going to prove himself all night long now. Before I could even process what the comment meant, Jay hooked his arm under my knees and swooped me up. He tossed me onto the soft bed. He grabbed my ankle, draped my leg over his waist, and let his hands roam. His voice was thick with lust. Ella, don't be so quick to judge me. Tonight, I'll make sure you feel it, over and over again. The lights above us didn't stop shaking until the middle of the night. When I woke up the next day, every bone in my body felt like it was about to fall apart. Last night, I was like a fish on a cutting board, flipped and kneaded by Jay over and over. He asked me, "Are you feeling it now?" About 1,000,000 times. It wasn't that I never felt anything before. I was just trying to get him to stop hiding his addiction. I had no idea it would unleash the beast in him. The comments, which had been blacked out all night, finally reappeared. No, why the black screen? I wanted to watch the spicy live stream. I thought we'd get to see the whole thing, but it cut out right as the clothes came off. I feel like I missed out on $1 billion show. But from the looks of her, last night must have been intense. I remember from the original story, the male lead has insane stamina. Intense doesn't even begin to cover it. My voice was wrecked. The bed was creaking all night. We went through almost half a box. After Jay and I cleared the air, we were like a couple in the honeymoon phase. During the day, I'd finish my work from home and then go to his office to keep him company. At night, we'd get busy in different parts of the house, unlocking new positions. After that day, I didn't see Sean for a long time. Kyle and his friends did call me a few times late at night, telling me Sean was drunk and that I should go pick him up. When I refused, they'd blame me for everything. I ignored them all and just blocked and deleted their numbers. Back when they were making bets on me, they never thought their behavior was wrong. Now, they were all getting on their high horse and judging me. I found out from Mia that Sean had been drinking heavily lately. Thinking about his relationship with Jay, I sent him a very long message. Then I blocked and deleted his number for good. That afternoon, I went to find Jay at his company like usual. I was about to knock when I heard his mother's angry voice from inside. "Wasn't it enough that you stole your brother's fiancée? Now you won't even let him work at the company? Your brother is like this because of you. It's all your fault. Jay, how could I have such a selfish child? I should have just... Oh my God, I cannot with this mother. She blames him for everything. Because of her favoritism, hasn't he given up enough for Sean his whole life? Sean isn't at the company because he loves racing. It has nothing to do with Jay. Just because she had a difficult birth with him, she thinks he's bad luck and has never liked him. Poor Jay has never felt a mother's love." Seeing the comments, I stood there, stunned. I always thought Jay and his mother were just distant. I had no idea this was the reason. How could a mother be like that? Thinking about what Jay had been through, my heart ached for him. I threw open the door and faced his mother. "Mrs. Song, while you're here blaming this son for the sake of your other son, have you ever considered his feelings? He's suffered enough because of your favoritism since he was a child. Now that he's grown, if you can't treat them equally, you have no right to judge him. You may not cherish him, but I do." Mrs. Song was left speechless and stormed out. I walked over and hugged Jay, my voice muffled. "From now on, we'll visit that house less. We'll just go to our home." Jay kissed my forehead, his voice soft. "Okay. I took his hand, slowly lacing our fingers together. Let's go. Let's go home now. By the time we left the office, the sky was growing dark. Jay and I walked along the neon-lit street. Seeing a couple of teenagers in school uniforms across the way, I stopped, tilted my head to look at Jay, and asked. Jay, there's a question I've been holding onto for a long time. When did you actually start to like me? Jay didn't speak, just looked at me quietly for a moment. Fine, if you don't want to say, you don't have to. I let go of his hand and started walking ahead on my own. Jay caught up in a few steps, looked into my eyes, and said, Ella, honestly, I don't even know myself. Some feelings just change before you even realize it. That night, I was looking for something in our room when I stumbled upon the divorce papers I'd prepared before. Just as I was about to get rid of them, Jay saw them. Knowing how fragile his heart could be, I rushed to explain. It's not what you think. I only prepared these because I thought you didn't want to be with me, and I didn't want to live like that anymore. Jay let out a soft his lips pressed together, his eyes fixed on the papers. I immediately tore them to shreds and changed the subject. Do you know why I didn't bring it up again later? Jay looked at me, not saying a word. I walked over to the other nightstand and took out the handcuffs. Because of these. I saw you holding them that day, and I was afraid you were going to use them on me, so I didn't dare say anything. Jay was stunned for a few seconds, then a smile touched his deep eyes. But that day, I was going to ask you to use them on me. What? That's not what the comments told me at all. The comments seemed a little guilty. Ha 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 ha, looks like she found out we lied to her. We just didn't want your love story to be so difficult. We didn't do anything wrong. Ella will understand, right? Oh, I understood. I walked over and cuffed Jay's hands, my cheeks blushing. Well then, tonight I'm using them on you. Ever since he was old enough to understand, Jay knew his younger brother, Sean, had a little fiancée. The girl had been following Sean around since they were kids. But Sean's attitude toward her was always cold and distant. He didn't get it. The girl was adorable and had a wonderful personality. It wasn't just that Sean didn't like her, you could say he was annoyed by her. He was always trying to avoid her. He remembered one time very clearly. Ella had won first place in a dance competition. She had run to share the happy news with Sean, but ended up walking away with red-rimmed eyes. On her way home, she ran into Jay, who was feeling down after failing an exam. Even though she was upset herself, she took the time to comfort him. She talked to him for a long time that day, telling him stories about all the tests, big and small, that she'd taken. Her only goal was to pull him out of his pit of failure. She was such a good girl. After that day, he found his gaze unconsciously lingering on her. He didn't understand why. Until one night, he dreamed of Ella. He realized, with a jolt, that he was in love with his brother's fiancée. How could he? He tried to crush the feelings that had no right to exist. But he couldn't stop himself from watching her from afar. Countless times, when Sean pushed her away, he desperately wanted to run out and hold her. But he couldn't. He had assumed she and Sean would get married after graduation. But instead, Sean chose to go abroad during his senior year. At the banquet, after he and Ella were both drugged, what little willpower he had left told him that this was his brother's fiancée, and he couldn't do this. But his remaining restraint crumbled under Ella's advances. Just this once, he would be selfish. Afterward, he took full responsibility. He knelt in the family study all night, enduring his strict father's scolding and his mother's hateful words. In the end, his parents relented. He finally got to marry her. Now, they were happy.